You are standing in an elevator. The doors open on your floor. Everyone else stays facing the back wall, so you turn around too. You don't decide to. Your body just does it. That's strange, isn't it? Nobody told you to. Nobody threatened you. And yet you obeyed a room full of strangers without a single word being spoken. Here's the uncomfortable truth. That reflex isn't personality. It isn't weakness. It's a switch buried deep in your brain, installed long before you were born. And it can be flipped by almost anyone wearing the right expression of authority. In 1961, a psychologist at Yale named Stanley Milgram wanted to understand how ordinary people could commit atrocities simply because someone in a position of power told them to. He built a simple experiment. A volunteer sat in front of a machine with switches labeled in rising voltage, up to a mark that read, "Danger, severe shock." Behind a wall, an actor pretended to receive those shocks, groaning, then screaming, then falling silent. A man in a lab coat stood beside the volunteer and said 4 sentences on repeat. Please continue. The experiment requires that you continue. It is absolutely essential that you continue. You have no other choice. You must continue. 65% of volunteers pushed the switch all the way to the end. Not because they were cruel, because a calm voice in a lab coat kept telling them to. Here's the part that should really unsettle you. This isn't a flaw in the wiring. It's a feature. Your ancestors didn't survive the last 2 million years by constantly second-guessing the tribe. Small hunter-gatherer bands lived or died based on instant coordination. When the group froze, you froze. When the group ran, you ran a half-second later without asking why. The ones who paused to debate the logic of the alarm call usually became the meal. Obedience wasn't submission. It was speed. It was survival stitched directly into your nervous system. But there's a second layer to this, one that anthropologist Christopher Bohm spent decades studying. Bohm looked at dozens of small-scale societies still living close to the way early humans once did, and he found something surprising. These groups were fiercely anti-authoritarian. They mocked bullies. They ostracized anyone who tried to dominate the group. So how do you square that with Milgram's obedient volunteers? The answer is that humans didn't evolve to obey people. They evolved to obey legitimate authority. And your brain has a fast, often clumsy shortcut for detecting what counts as legitimate. A uniform, a title, a calm, confident tone, a clipboard. Your ancestors needed a quick way to identify who actually had earned the right to give orders during a hunt or a raid, because arguing about it while a lion approached was a luxury nobody could afford. That shortcut still runs today, except now it fires for lab coats, badges, and corporate titles instead of tribal elders. Social psychologist Solomon Asch showed just how easily that shortcut misfires even without any real authority present. In his experiments, he sat one real participant alongside several actors, then asked the group to judge which of 3 lines matched a reference line. The answer was obvious, but the actors, one after another, confidently gave the wrong answer out loud, and roughly a third of participants caved, agreeing with an answer they could see with their own eyes was false, purely because everyone else in the room said it first. Think about what that means. You don't need a threat. You don't need punishment. You just need consensus or the appearance of it, and your brain will quietly override your own senses to stay aligned with the group. Brain imaging research led by neuroscientist Gregory Burns in the mid-2000s found something that made this even harder to dismiss as simple politeness. When participants gave in to a group's wrong answer, activity increased in regions tied to visual and spatial perception, not just in areas linked to social reasoning. In other words, some people weren't just saying the wrong answer to avoid awkwardness. Their perception itself was shifting. The group wasn't changing their words. It was changing what they believed they saw. That should stop you for a second. If a crowd can bend your eyes, imagine what it can do to your opinions, your politics, your sense of what's normal at work, at home, in a group chat, where everyone already agrees before you type a single word. This is why the elevator moment isn't trivial. It's the same machinery that let a hunter-gatherer band move as one organism when a predator appeared in the grass. The same machinery Milgram's volunteers used when a man in a lab coat told them to keep pressing the switch. The same machinery Asch's participants used when a room full of strangers all pointed at the wrong line. Here's the twist that changes how you should think about this. Obedience was never really about people. It was about pattern recognition, running so fast it feels like instinct instead of thought. Your brain isn't asking, should I trust this person? It's asking, does this match the shape of legitimate authority I evolved to recognize? And that question gets answered in milliseconds, long before your conscious mind gets a vote. Which means the moments that matter most in your life, the ones where you go along with a decision at work you privately disagree with, the ones where you stay quiet in a meeting because everyone else is nodding, the ones where you follow an instruction that feels wrong but looks official, aren't failures of character. They're your ancient survival software doing exactly what it was built to do, in a world it was never designed for. Knowing this doesn't make the switch disappear, but it does give you something your ancestors never had. A half second of awareness, right before the switch flips, where you can ask yourself one simple question. Is this authority actually legitimate? Or does it just look the part? That elevator doesn't care either way, but you might. The next time the doors open,